doctor, a German medical doctor who was in charge of the selection. That's what they called it, the selection. He selected who stays alive and who is going to die. That's why they called him the angel of death. He dispatched more people to death than anybody else in history. He had a leather whip in his hand, and he would look at you and point to the right and point to the left. 65 years later, I still see him. I see him standing in front of us, pointing right and left. Now, at this point, I had my parents with me. I had a brother that was 1.5 years younger than I, and I had a little sister. She was 6 years old. This was the last time I have ever seen my family. Never again did I ever see them again. My brother and I were pointed to the right. My parents and my little sister were pointed to the left. They marched us off, us to the right, and they went to the left. We turned around and looked at each other, and that was it. Finish. My brother and I were taken to a place called Birkenau, which is part of the Auschwitz camp. It was part of the extermination camp. We came to Birkenau, and when we arrived there, they made us take our clothes off. They cut our hair, and they removed any jewelry that you had, such as a ring. If you had gold fillings, they pulled them, they extracted them out of your teeth. They had people walk around with pliers and look in your mouth, and they would pull the gold out because they didn't want you to die with gold in you. They wanted that gold. After they undressed us and cut our hair off, they handed each a uniform. There was a two-piece suit. You saw it on the film. It was a blue outfit, blue with white stripes, a jacket and a pair of pants. They handed you a set. They didn't ask you what size you wore. They just handed you a set. I was just as tall as I am today, 6'1", and naturally they would give me a small little suit. Well, I had to walk around and find out if there's anybody there that got one that didn't fit him, and I did. I found somebody. And he said, let's swap. So we did. So he gave me one that fitted, and I gave him a smaller one. They dressed us up, and we went into this barrack. And there must have been a couple of thousand others, just like us. We went in there. They locked the gates on us. And a few hours later, I opened the door and went outside. I went outside, and right in front, there was a fence, a barbed wire fence. And I looked at this fence, and I saw people hanging on to this fence. They were hanging on. They were standing there and holding on to the wires. And they didn't move. They didn't move. So, and I looked and looked because this was something I didn't anticipate and I never seen before. One fellow walked by, and I stopped him. I said, excuse me. I said, what do I see? What? He says, when did you get here? I said, a few hours ago. He said, those people are dead. I said, well, what happened? He said, they committed suicide. Those fences are electrically charged. And if you walked over and you grabbed them, you were finished. You were electrocuted. So these people had enough. They killed themselves, and at night, trucks would drive up, and they would take the bodies off these fences and carry them off to the crematorium. So while there, I smelled something awful outside. I smelled like a burning meat, burning flesh. So I asked him, and this man said to me, you just got here today? And I said, yes. Anybody else come with you? I said, yeah, my parents, my sister, and my brother. And he said, where are they? I said, my brother is in here with me, he's in the barrack. And my parents went to the left. And he said, you might as well know, they're burning him to death right now. This is what you're smelling. That's the crematorium, what you're smelling. Well, he was right. I didn't want to believe him, but he was absolutely right. As a matter of fact, a few years ago, my wife and I went there. We went to Auschwitz. And I went to the crematorium to see where they were killed. Now, what they did with them, as they parted them to the left, they walked them in front of this huge building, and they made them undress. Again, they took all their gold away. They cut their hair off, and they made them walk into a shower room, a huge building that had in the ceiling, they had spigots, showers, looked like a place that you go into shower. They locked the doors on both sides. There was an entrance and exit. And in the ceiling, there were SS standing up there, and they turned on these spigots. Instead of water, Cyclone B poison came out. Within 5 minutes, they were all dead. Everybody that went in there was dead. They opened the doors, and a little train would come in, a narrow gauge train, and they would put the bodies on this train and pushed it into the crematoriums like ovens, lined up, maybe about 6 of them, and they would burn them into ashes, and then they would take the ashes out of there and just take them out on the fields. So when we went back, we went over there. I wanted to see everything, and I did. It's exactly today, it stands there like it did 65 years ago, just like it was. But let me get back to my story. So I was in Birkenau for just a few weeks. We really didn't do nothing. One day, a train pulled up, and they put us on a train, but this time it was a regular passenger train. Not boxcars, but just a regular train. They made us get into this train, and we went off to Dachau, which is another concentration camp, but Dachau is in Germany. Auschwitz was in Poland. And Dachau is not far from Munich, maybe about 60 kilometers from Munich. Dachau was Hitler's first concentration camp. They used Dachau as a political concentration camp. They would put the communists in there. A lot of homosexuals went there. And they brought political prisoners from the Netherlands, from France, from Poland, from Russia, and they put them into Dachau. But later, Dachau became also an extermination camp. So they took us to Dachau. We were there maybe for just a week. After 1 week, they took us to a place called Landsberg, which is a satellite camp of Dachau. It was a small camp, just about 4,000 to 5,000 of us. But this was a labor camp, a slave labor camp. They would wake us up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and we would line up each morning in front of the kitchen, and we each had an aluminum bucket with a handle on it. We'd line up at the window at the kitchen, and somebody would give us some black so-called coffee, but it was all black water, and gave us a third of a loaf of bread. That was our ration for the day. So we won't get anything till we come back at night. When we came back in the evening, we came back from work, we line up again, and this time they would give us soup. Mostly they called it potato soup. But I never saw, in 2 years, I never saw potato in it. All I saw was, but it was warm, and it tasted real good, especially when you're hungry. Let me tell you, when you're hungry, everything tastes good. I ate out of garbage cans. Food that was there for a week and 2 weeks, and I ate whatever was in the garbage can, I ate it. And it tasted very, very good. So when you're hungry, everything tastes good. So this was going on. Now, how did we exist with that? Well, we didn't. It was very tough. My brother starved to death. He physically starved to death. February 4th, 1945. He was in the same barrack as I was. And in the morning when they woke us up at 3 o'clock, he couldn't leave the barrack. And I said, we got to go. And he said, I can't. I said, what do you mean? He says, I can't. I'm too weak. I cannot get up. My legs will move. I can't. I cannot go. And I said, you know what's going to happen to you? He said, yes.